Hey there everyone, Laurel here. Thanks so much for checking out my YouTube video today. I am participating in the Essentials by Ellen October release. We've had a mini blog hop going on this week and I'm on the last day of the blog hop, so I hope you've checked it out. I've created 2 cards today using the Thistle stamp set and die set. The first card I'm going to do a little bit of masking here, so I die cut a circle out with some masking paper and I'm just adhering it to some watercolored cardstock. You can use regular cardstock if you want to. I wasn't sure if I was going to go in with some water flicking or not, so that's why I chose to use the watercolor cardstock here. I'm using 3 different color distress inks for my background: Candied Apple, Ripe Persimmon, and Wilted Violet. And I'm going to use a blending tool here and just blend that background, or blend that ink onto the background. You can use a makeup sponge, which you can get really cheap at the pharmacy or Target or whatever. I go to Target weekly. So, actually, sometimes I go twice a week. It's really pitiful, actually. But I love these round blending tools from Tim Holtz. So I'm using those. You can see I'm working off my paper on and just going in. I started off light with my 3 colors, and then I'm going to go in and blend darker. Now I did speed this portion of the video up, and actually as I'm looking at my hand, I'm getting a little dizzy by how fast it's moving. But if I didn't speed it up, we'd be here all day long. And y'all don't want to be here with me all day long. Trust me. Alright, so I'm just going to go in and darken it up now until I get to the look that I'm going for here with these 3 different colors. And I chose these colors because it's kind of like a fall theme, but also a little bit of Christmas, a little bit of purple. Why not? I just like those 3 colors together. Now I did go in and add some water here to blend all those colors together. So I'm actually very glad I used the watercolor cardstock. But if you're not going to use water, then that watercolor cardstock is not necessary. So here's a look at the Thistle stamp set here. It does come with a coordinating die as well. And I'm going to use this little branch-like image here, little stem, if you will. And I stamped it with some fine onyx black ink, and then I stamped the Thistle on top. I have no idea what happened to my filming. I don't know why it didn't film me stamping that, but I basically stamped the stem and the leaf, which is one image, and then the Thistle top, which is a second image. And then I used that pigment ink, so I was able to heat emboss that with some clear embossing powder. This is another stamp set from the release called Snailed It, and I decided to use a sentiment from that stamp set. Again, I'm going to stamp it with that VersaFine Onyx Black ink. It's a pigment ink, which is what I stamped the image in, the Thistle image. And so I'm going to sprinkle on, again, some of that clear embossing powder, and then I'll heat set the sentiment. And I like to heat set my sentiments because I really want them to stand out here. And I like this silhouette image here against that distress colored background. So here's where the magic's going to shine, because I'm going to remove that mask. And I'm carefully removing it because I try to reuse my masks because I'm cheap. So I'll stick that somewhere and try to reuse it if I can until it just falls apart. And I just love the shine from the embossing and the white background, and it's all one layer. So I just rounded the corners there, and that finished off this card here. And then I decided to go ahead and make a second card. Now I'm using the Thistle stamp set in a very unconventional way. I'm not using it the way it's intended here, which I thought would be fun. But be sure to check out the blog hop for hoppers that use this in the conventional way that it was intended for. But I don't know. I was just feeling a little freaky that day or something. I didn't know. I'm a little weirdo. So again, I'm using this like tree-like. I'm using it like a tree. Okay, that's what it's going to be here for my image here. So I've kind of taped this down with some onto a piece of hardy board or something, because I'm going to watercolor in some different colors here. So again, stamp that with the VersaFine ink. You guys are sick of that. Clear heat embossed over the top. And then I've got my Gonzai watercolors. You can use any watercolors you want. You can use distress inks if you want to. You can use Zig watercolor pens, whatever, Spectrum Noir, Aqua brush markers. I just got a hold of those, and those are pretty cool. And I just did some watercoloring here. I'm just kind of, really making a mess, quite honestly. So I put on a clear wash of water here, and then I'm just going to go in and start dabbing some color here and there. And I keep messing around until I get the look that I want. And I messed around for a good long time here to get the look that I want. That's another reason why I taped the cardstock down to that panel there, so I can pick it up and move it around and get that water moving. So that's why I did that. So you'll see me pick it up because I kind of want things to blend together. I want some droplets to occur and so forth. So I just played around right here. I'm going to play some music. I've got nothing important to say whatsoever, but I just, you know, this took a lot more time than it should have. So if you do, you know, attempt to make a card like this, it's not going to take you as long as it did me. I just kept playing around. I think I had my iPad playing in the background, and I just kind of zoned out a little bit and played. So it doesn't take as long as it took me. So I was exceptionally freaky, weird, and slow the day I made this card. So if you haven't fallen asleep, or even if you fast forwarded, I won't be offended. Finishing touch here, I did some water flicks right there with my hand. I just sprayed some water into my hand and flicked it on, and kind of blends the color, adds a little bit of water droplets that I like. And I'm just going to make sure this is good and dry before I move forward, because I'm going to do some die cutting, and you don't want to die cut wet paper because you just don't want to do it. It'll make a big fat mess. So I'll peel this all apart and I am good to go here. So I'm going to be using some large stitched rectangle dies. These are from Lawn Fawn, I believe. I'm going to kind of create a little frame here, so I'm going to kind of layer the die cuts how I want them to cut, and then I'll use some masking paper here, and then I'm going to run it through my die cutting machine. I use the Vagabond, so that's off camera because it's a very large machine. And then I'll peel it off, and I've got myself a little frame here, if you will, using, I think this is probably the combination of the large and small stitched rectangle dies, I think. But now I can kind of piece it back together, and I can pop up a panel or kind of do whatever I want to do here at this point. Usually I forget about sentiments, where I'm going to put them, what am I going to do, and I did this time too. So I chose to pop up that center panel there with some foam dimension, and that's when I realized I forgot to do my sentiment. So I'm using my MISTI, which saved my butt because I would have messed up the stamping of the sentiment had I not. So ideally you want to get your sentiment done before you pop up anything on your cards. So I'm going to go ahead and take this, I used this as a little creative corner. I don't know if you guys saw that little kit that she released a few months back, but it's creative corners. It's meant to use with your MISTI to help kind of line everything up. It comes with 4 or 5 pieces. Can't remember exactly. But again, using that same VersaFine Onyx black ink, and I'm going to do some clear, clear, hello, been there, done that, right? Still doing it. And then I'll go ahead and heat set that there. And I'm going to, this is kind of it's a black cardstock, but it's not black, black, black. So I decided to go in and add a little bit of shading using some black soot distress ink, because I really wanted black, 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 black. How many times did I just say black? I don't know. Anyway, so I'm going to pop up this panel onto my black card base as well, using this Scotch double-sided tape, this ginormous roll that's as big as my head. Love this stuff. Never not have any. I always make sure I have extra roll because I seem to be using this on every card in some manner. Then I'll pop that up right there in the center of this card, and then that's that. So I've got these 2 cards here using the Thistle stamp set. I also threw in Snailed It as well from the recent October Essentials by Ellen release. Again, I created some very unconventional cards today. There are some amazing Christmas cards out there using the Thistle stamp set if you want to get some ideas for your Christmas schemes. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I will see you next time.